On today's episode of Gathering the Kings.
It was like the greatest moment ever on Friday when he got the wire. He was like, oh my goodness. And then Saturday morning when he woke up, it was like, uh-oh, what now? What do I
What
do?
now?
And obviously for him, luckily he's been able to reinvent himself, which is a whole nother skill set. But that guy that you're talking about, like,
Sad.
he didn't know how to reinvent. He didn't know that it was okay to be grateful, but not done.
Yeah. Yeah. It was sad. It was super sad. One of those life lessons where you saw that go down and you're just like, dude had everything, but nothing.
You are listening to Gathering the Kings with Chaz Wolfe, featuring fellow 7, 8, and even 9-figure business owners who have real battle scars from business and life, but have prevailed as the king that they are designed to be. We welcome high-performing entrepreneurs to the stage in order to reveal the real of the real on what it takes to build a successful business today. We dissect the good and bad decisions they've made along the way that give a true and accurate picture of the journey of success and how you too can get there. Through this dialogue, you will learn the value of growing your network and surrounding yourself with power players and kings like today's guest. Grab your pen and notebook because we're about to dive in.
What's up, everybody? I'm Chaz Wolfe, Gathering the Kings podcast. Today I've got Paul Halme here on the King stage. My brother, Paul.
Excited to be here.
Good, man. I'm glad. It's Monday morning, right? We're fresh. We're ready to tackle the deal. And we're talking about igniting entrepreneurs, man. This is what we do with Gathering the Kings, especially here on the podcast. And what better way to ignite people than to be on fire ourselves, right?
It's the only way.
Paul, what kind of business do you have, my brother?
I'm a little bit of everything. So I started off brick and mortar doing MMA and Jiu-Jitsu. I grew that. And then everybody's like, hey, how do you run your gym? How do you do this? How do you do that? Can I pick your brain? I'm like, one of my friends like, hey, we got to start a consulting company because this is getting ridiculous.
Yep.
Did that and that did really well. And then of course, 2020 came and we were consulting for non-essential businesses. So that was a lot of fun. So we've been working out of that, but those are the two main things doing, I still have my own business that I do consulting and then also like personal finance coaching, things like that, which is a big piece to everything.
Yeah, I love it. I love you. We're similar in this way where we've kind of held on to our first love. We both still have some of those initial businesses.
Yep.
I'm not sure how much longer I will, but I can appreciate the fact that there's multiple things going on and how that requires a different skill set.
Yeah.
Sometimes a different level of crazy, maybe.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, definitely levels of crazy.
Well, I want to know your story. I want to get to know how you got into, jiu-jitsu and the retail and of course then consulting. But before we do, we've already talked about igniting desire. And I feel like genuinely the best way that I know how to do that is first myself being on fire or burning desire. So I want to know yours, man. What burns on the inside of Paul, man? What's the bigger picture? What's your why?
Man, my why is just to be able to do things I never thought I could be able to do. I grew up, typical, Midwestern kid, family had no money. Parents made enough money to survive. And that was about it. I grew up like most people listening to this, probably like, oh, we can't afford that. We can't do that. Just grew up with all this negativity in my life. And it was like people I talked to, it was the same situation. I was like, man, this sucks. It's like, I want more than this. And then started, I got into jiu-jitsu and started meeting people that were successful. And I'm like, man, these guys got way better attitudes than all my friends and family. And it's like, wow, this is a whole nother world. Then I met entrepreneurs and I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. You guys are
People
like,
live like this.
yeah, you're like, you just do your thing and people pay you and then you just, wow. And there's like, I got hooked on that. It was just, but that just drives me every day. It sounds kind of cliche, but just becoming the best version I can of me. It's like taking care of my health, my family, my finances, of course, traveling, having fun, enjoying it, and going through that. That's my biggest driver.
Yeah. For me, because I don't know if I could have said the way I feel about it like you. Like I'm not done. Grateful,
No,
but
yeah,
not done,
never done.
right? And so it's like, what inside of that, like what is the not done? Like I've been trying to explore this over the last maybe couple of weeks. Is that because I love to win? I think it's because I love to win. Is it because there's just this fire inside and it hasn't been quenched yet? I don't know. But I feel very similar to you in that way where it's like, no. I just want to win in all these areas, not just one, but in all of them. And it seems like every time we win, there's another level to go to. Would you agree?
Always 100%. It's like you get that next level. And I would correlate life a lot to jiu-jitsu. And jiu-jitsu, you have different belts, different ranks. And every time you get to that next level, you're like, I did it. And then you're like, wait, but there's another level after this. And it's like, oh my God. And it's like,
yeah.
Every time you get there. So one thing I've learned, through ups and downs of life is you got to enjoy the journey at the same time too. Like you said, be grateful.
Right.
Like man, it's like, I can't tell you how many times I've looked back at something and realized like, I hit this a huge accomplishment. And it's like, okay, I feel the same. Should have really enjoyed it a lot more on the way up. And it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so now I really try
Yeah.
to make sure I enjoy it and celebrate my wins.
Yeah. Well, it's, I mean, if we're saying we love to win, why would we not want to win on the little things every
Oh,
day? Like,
every day.
in fact, if anything, that should make the fire burn hotter. It's like, man, I freaking just won.
Dude,
I just,
it's
no, I just doubled down on the winning today. I got up, I got my workout in, I got my like all the little things even is what I'm saying. But I feel you on that, man. It's like there, I guess for guys like you and I, people that are listening, if there wasn't another level, like, I guess you could look at it two different ways. You could say, okay, well, like, oh my gosh, there's another level again. Or it's like, no, thank goodness there's another level. Because if there wasn't another level, what would I do? I would probably just fall apart because then there goes my purpose. There goes the driving force. Like, would you agree with this?
oh yeah. Yeah. Once you lose your drive and your purpose, it's real tough.
Yeah.
You see that people win the lottery or somebody that sells their business and then they get super depressed because they have nothing to drive anymore. They're like, I've seen in my own life, I've seen guys that were super successful, sold their businesses, went down some really dark rabbit holes and they're not with us anymore. And I'm like, oh my God, that guy had everything and it wasn't enough, because he had nothing to do. It was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
got to have a mission.
Yeah, and it becomes greater than the money. In fact, I literally just recorded a pod right before this, and he had sold a business, and he explained this. So that first couple of weeks, it was like the greatest moment ever on Friday when he got the wire. He was like, "Oh my goodness!" And then Saturday morning when he woke up, it was like, "Uh-oh, what now? What do I
What
do?"
now?
And obviously for him, luckily he's been able to reinvent himself, which is a whole nother skill set. But that guy that you're talking about, like,
Sad.
he didn't know how to reinvent. He didn't know that it was okay to be grateful, but not done.
Phew. Yeah. Yeah. It was sad. It was super sad. It was one of those life lessons where you saw that go down and you're just like, dude had everything, but nothing. So it's like,
Yeah.
keep the little things important. Like you said earlier too, having those daily wins, like, making sure you're getting in your workout, make sure you're spending some time with your family, make sure you're, working on your mind, you're studying something, listening to podcasts, reading a book,
Sure.
just keep evolving.
Yeah, exactly. All right, dude. Well, let's hear the story. I want to know, like, how did you get into business? How did that translate to, jujitsu? And then of course, then consulting. Give us a little bit of the story here.
Yeah. It's been crazy. Jiu-jitsu has kind of been the driver of everything, which is so crazy. People see me now and they're like, when I actually played golf in college in the Midwest in South Dakota, people are like, you did what? Because I don't look
Golf
like a
in
golfer
South
anymore.
Dakota.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
hear jujitsu in that.
Nothing. I was a nerd, I was like it's the golfer, dad bod, didn't work out in anything. And in college, you have to do NCAA study hall. And I met this one guy who was in my dorm. I see him a couple times and we were in study hall together. We started talking and he's like, yeah, he's like, you're watching the UFC. And I'm like, what is that? He's like, well, you got to come watch this UFC thing. I'm like, all right, cool. So we went and watched it. Like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then he was a wrestler at the time. So he's like, well, let's try to learn jujitsu. I'm like, well, this is not fun. It's like every day I get hurt or something would hurt. I'm like, I can't do this, dude. It's like, I got dream. I'm going to finish college and I'm going to play pro golf in my fantasy world in my head, cause we always have these big goals because you have to. So I'm like, no, I'm going to do this. So he's like, well, let's lift together. I'm like, all right, cool. That'll be fun. So we started lifting together and started getting stronger and helped a lot with my golf. And I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then get to my senior year and I'm going to graduate. And he's like, hey, I'm moving to either New York, California, or Texas. Those are the three places you could do jujitsu in the 90s. It's like three choices. And he's like, I can't afford New York or California. So I'm going to Dallas. I'm like, all right, sounds cool. And then I was looking around and I was like, man, do I want to stay in this small town that I grew up in my whole life and be like everybody else? And, or do I want to go just do something different? And I got the best advice ever from my grandfather. He goes, go do it for a year. What's the worst that can happen? You come home. And I was like, because I was overthinking the whole thing. I'm like, oh, if I go, do I do this or do I stay? He's like, it's not the end of, he goes, you just go. He's on everybody, no one else supported me. He's the only one. He's like, just go. Worst case scenario, you bring your stuff back home, piece of cake. And I'm like, without his push helped me get to that level. So
Yeah.
I end up in Dallas. My buddy's doing jujitsu and I'm done golfing now and I'm working. I'm like, all right, I'll start doing some of this jujitsu stuff now. And it was way more fun because there were people that weren't as good as him because he turned out to be Travis Lutter, who fought in the Ultimate Fighter, fought Anderson
Wow.
Silva, Rich Frank. So it's like my training partner was a monster. So when I got to go
Yeah.
do jiu-jitsu with other people, I'm like, hey, this is kind of fun. I actually
fun.
can win sometimes.
I don't get my hiney cooked every
Oh,
time.
dude, it was brutal. So, so it got to be more fun and I fell in love with it. And then when I moved down here, I met a girl that ended up getting married to. We're still married. I have 2 kids. It's been 26 years. So it's been crazy. So I met
Yeah, it all
her.
started with jujitsu.
Yeah, it all started with jujitsu. And then, of course, she got pregnant and I'm like, oh, I'm getting a job. And I had friends that were stockbrokers from jujitsu. And then I had friends that were firemen from jujitsu. I'm like, okay, I like both those jobs. Sound good. Applied for both. First one that hired me, I took and ended up being a stockbroker job. So I did that for 6 years.
Wow.
Greatest education of my life. Best job I ever had. I'd highly recommend it to anybody just to learn about, get in the trenches and learn about money. But it was weird. Like I kept climbing that ladder. Like I'm kind of like you. I'm just goal driven. You put me in a thing. I'm going to climb. And I got to this point where I just wasn't happy anymore. Like I was gaining weight. I wasn't doing as much jujitsu. It was like I got caught in the corporate hustle, and there's like there's got to be more out there. And then Travis was like, "Well, how about be at my gym a little bit because I'm really busy with fighting." This is before he got in the Ultimate Fighter 4 when they did the comeback series. And I started helping him with his gym. Like, oh, this is kind of fun. I'm kind of good at this. And I joked with my wife. She could tell I was unhappy with my job. I was like, hey, I should look at maybe open a gym someday, blah, blah, blah. It'll be pretty hard. And then one day I'll never forget, she calls me at work and she's like, hey, I found a place and they'll do a 1-year lease with a 3-year option. I'm like, that's crazy. Nobody does that. She goes, yeah, I just talked to him, blah, blah, blah. She's like, let's just do
Wow.
it. And I'm like, cause I'm a scaredy cat, so my wife pushed me and it's like, okay, end up opening a gym. It was horrible 2 years. I did both for 2 years. I kept my stockbroker job and ran the
And did
gym,
the
did
gym.
everything wrong. But then one day it all started to click and it started to make a little bit of money and we started doing better and better. And I wanted to compete more. And then Travis was fighting more. So it was like, I can't do both anymore. And then it's like, all right, let's take the jump. And so we took the jump into jujitsu and then
Full
had the
time.
gym since 2003. So 23 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a long time to have a business.
Yeah, it is. Well, and especially in a niche and a retail niche, even at that,
Yeah.
it's like, pretty intense. Although what I love about the jujitsu community, if you will, is that it's just so tight.
Yep. It's
Like
crazy.
it's like a brotherhood.
Yeah. Yeah, I joke around. I can go anywhere in the world and find somewhere to train, and literally they'll treat me like a brother. Like, they're like, "Hey, what can I get you? You want to grab lunch?" And it's like, it's just, it's amazing. Like you can travel anywhere in the world, and it's like, especially you get to the level I'm at now, where I've been doing it for so long, and I know so many people. It's like, oh yeah, and you just get really tied in, and it's just an amazing network of awesome people.
Yeah. Yeah, believe it or not, my younger sister has been doing jujitsu for a little while, and
Nice,
and I think she's about to get her blue belt. I think she just
nice, that's awesome.
so moving up from the white, I think is what it is. And
Yep,
so anyway, she's excited about it and explaining the community, just a super tight knit deal, which I think even as entrepreneurs we desire. I mean, that's why Gathering the Kings exists on the peer to peer side. It's like as successful business owners, as jujitsu, artists or fighters, we it's comfortable or it's better. It's like a place to belong. Cool, but like it spurs us on to the next belt or the next level of business or the next rung of success and family and business and life, right?
yep, 100%.
And James Clear talks about this in Atomic Habits.
Oh my god, it's a great
You gotta,
book,
yeah, you got to join the
dude.
community to take your individual habit commitment or discipline to another level because you want to join a group of people who are like you because then you yourself imagine doing it because you think that they're like you, but they already have the habit.
Dude, yeah, it's the support that you need that helps so much when you have that community.
Yeah. Yeah, which is why it becomes a brotherhood because you can go anywhere, like you said, and they understand you. You're traveling in, they've never met you, and they're so willing to help because they know what you've been through or gone through to get to the level you are. And that's the same in business that I have found. Whether it's a podcast like you and me, we've never met each other before today, and we've already have a mutual respect for each other.
Yep.
Or it's like we're in a live event and we're just shaking hands for the first time. I already have like this like what can I get you feeling because it's like, dude, I know you've been through the fire.
Yeah,
There's no
then
way
a
you're at
couple
your level of
times.
business and you haven't been through the fire. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a couple times.
Yeah, exactly. You walk out on the other side and it's not like you were not burned. It just, we lived, we survived.
Dude, yeah, it's tough, but we get through it.
That's right. Okay. Let's go practical. Let's go down deep. You gave us a little bit of your journey, a little bit of the overview at least, but I want to know of a good decision that you made. Something that you can look back on and it is like the crux of the rest of all the other decisions. What was something that you chose to do?
Man, yeah, it goes back to jujitsu again, is like choosing hard things. That's the biggest advice I can give people when it comes to, like business and life, things like that, is choosing the hard things and doing it. Like when you're consulting gym owners, because in my industry, it's pretty cut and dry. Like I can teach anybody how to do these things, follow this process, dot, dot, dot. And you get the guys that just like, okay, cool, I'll do it. And then they do it and they're successful. And you get the ones that they complain, oh, I tried this and it didn't work. And then I'm like, well, what did you do? Well, I ran the ads for like a week, but then, I wasn't signing anybody up and I was just wasting money. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So you taking the easy way. You're just going to complain. It's like, so you have to choose the harder path, especially with entrepreneurship and small businesses. If you make those hard decisions, it makes the other stuff so much easier. Just, sticking to the plan and like and doing picking the hard things.
Yeah, and you said underneath the hard thing there, you gave a really good example of the ads, but to
Oh my
kind of like press that out a little
God. Yeah.
further.
It's
But
unreal.
yeah, well, because we as even entrepreneurs, we have this like, okay, risk take. Don't
Oh,
put me in a box. Like I'm going to go for it. But even it's survival. Actually, is what it is. It's
oh yeah.
fear,
It's
and
fear.
it keeps us small. It keeps us scared, and we want things to happen right away. And that's just not, unfortunately, how life works or how success works. Is that you kind of got to hit the rock a lot of times,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
sometimes you realize after hitting it hundreds of times that you were hitting the wrong rock. Like, oops. But you can't only hit it a few times.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
it's
know?
it's crazy. Everybody want people. It's like everybody want. I want success. I want this. I want this. I want this. But then it's like, as soon as something gets uncomfortable, they're like, you know what? I'm just gonna, back off a little bit. And it's like,
Yeah.
then how are you gonna move forward if you back off? It's like
Yeah.
you're just, and the worst part is you talk to these people a year later, and they're in the exact same spot, and they're like, oh
Yep.
man, I haven't really grown. I'm like, huh, weird. Only if somebody had given you a plan and giving you everything you needed to do, and then you chose not to do it. And
Only
they're
if.
like, yeah, maybe, but then their ego gets in the way, and they're like, no, I don't think that was it. I'm like, okay, I don't even argue anymore. I'm like,
Yep.
oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
We'll
See you in a year when you're
see you next year.
see you next year when you're in the exact same spot and you're wondering why so and so's got such a better gym than you. It's like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just crazy.
It's real. It's so real. In fact, I want the listener to really, really pay attention here. But what Paul's talking about, he actually gave you the solution and the answer. The problem is we don't want to do hard things. And in business, like running ads for a long enough period of time to test and get results and modify and change so that you can adjust and get results, that all has to happen in order to have success. But if you don't do hard things outside of business, like working out or getting up at a specific time or cold showers, love cold showers.
Yeah.
But fad or no fad, what we're choosing to do is I do hard things. Okay, so that way in business, when someone across the microphone, like Paul is today, tell me, well, actually, you're not spending enough money. It's like, oh, that makes me really nervous. You tell me I got to spend more money? That's something hard. Okay, well, do I have a track record or a history of doing things hard? That's what you're saying.
Yep.
So are you doing these things inside business, inside out? Like what I just said, does that make sense? Like, give us your 2 cents on this.
Yeah, you got to choose to do the hard things, like we said earlier. It's like when you pick those things, like you said, even some people are like, well, I don't want to do jujitsu. Jujitsu is dumb. It's like, okay, cool. I was listening to Rob Deerdeck. I love his style and like his machine thing and everything. About like he talked about how like he chose to do harder things by getting up 1 hour earlier every day and starting to work. It ended up giving him like an extra, I forget how many days a year over his competitors. He goes,
Right.
I choose to do something harder. Like you said earlier, cold showers. It's like you can find something that you don't want to do that makes it where you're like, yeah, and then you feel it like when you do something hard, you feel better. It's like, you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to go conquer this day versus we've all been there where you get up and you're kind of like, oh, I'm just not feeling it today. So I'm just going to lay in bed a little longer. All right. I guess I'll get my coffee and sit on the couch. And the next thing you know, it's 11 o'clock and you haven't gotten anything done because you're moping around. And then something challenging comes up and you're like,
No.
oh yeah, well, today was a bust. You're like,
Yeah.
you're starting in that negative space where it's like, if you would have done something that challenged you, pushed you a little bit, made you feel like, oh man, I accomplished something, a little like atomic habits. It's something small,
Yeah.
moves you forward. And it's like, boom, picking something hard and doing it. But it doesn't have to be jujitsu. I tell you that. It's like, that's my thing. But
Sure.
some people's things lifting, some people's things yoga, some people's thing cold showers and running. It's like, you can pick anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the point here that you and I are both hoping that the listener takes away is that it's not woo. It's not like just this like,
Yeah,
oh,
it'll
do
come.
hard things. It'll help. Like, no, like seriously, like if
Do
you just
something hard.
Yeah, like literally choose and go like, I know this is hard, but I'm going to do it anyway. And what that does is that when the challenge does come, you alluded to it just 30 seconds ago, is that I'm so prepared for that challenge. Now that specific challenge I may not be like waiting for, but I'm ready for challenge. I'm ready for something hard.
Yeah, because it's coming. If you run a business, things pop up and you're like, oh my God. It's like, okay, 3 deep breaths and let's just fix this problem, because
Yep.
either you fix it or you dwell on it. And so that's why I love that.
So good.
Just dialed in.
3 deep breaths and fix the problem.
Just go.
That is such a logical answer, and I love it. Because what else are you going to do? Just
Yeah.
dwell in it. Gosh, you're going to have to quote that.
Hey, kings and queens, Chaz Wolfe. I want to talk to you about something that's super important to me. We put a lot of time and effort, we meaning myself and my team, into this podcast, into the content that goes out every single day. And if you have been getting any sort of value or insight from this, we want it to be able to reach other business owners too. So we would love if you would like, comment, share, leave a review, post, share again, all of the things on social media, on all the different platforms, or even on the podcast mediums of Apple and Spotify. We would love to be able to get our content into more hands, more entrepreneurs, so they can grow their business as quick as possible. Together, we are building a community of like-minded entrepreneurs who are committed to growing their businesses to new heights. So let's do this. Let's help each other. Let's help each other grow.
Okay, well, let's flip the coin. Paul, tell us about a bad decision, because they all haven't been good. Tell us something juicy.
Man, bad decision. And it's one that I'm going through right now. So I'll give you some real time updates is, I come from an investing world. I was a stockbroker. I've always been investing, always doing these things. And then I hit this sweet spot in 2019. And I was like, kind of got a little cocky going into 2020. Like I got everything dialed in. I got my investments dialed in. I got my business dialed in, my consulting dialed in. And I started hearing about all these private equity deals. I'm like, oh, I want to do that. All these guys are pulling money together. Like, oh, I want to do that. That sounds cool. And they're like, well, you got to be at this level, blah, blah, blah. So I do all the stuff through my accountant, prove that I am eligible to do some of these investments where you're pulling money together into like restaurants or different things. And I'm like, yeah, this will be great. Blah, blah, blah. It's a no brainer. Do all that stuff. And then I didn't realize, they're like, oh yeah, it could be, a year and a half. You start seeing things, which technically I'm learning now is like 2 to 3 years. So it's like literally
Always longer.
I got ahead of myself where I'm like, yeah, I'm at this level. I can do that. But I was at like the very, like I choose way too hard, and it caused some stress too. Cause it was like, I was embarrassed, like trying to tell my wife, like, hey, I put a lot of money in some stuff and we're not getting any money back. It could be, I don't know when. But she's always been super supportive. She's like, well, that's cool. As long as you, didn't put all of our money into stuff. I'm like, no, it wasn't, but it was more than I should have put in, because I got cocky. I'm like, they're like, well, the entry level is this. I'm like, well, I'm going to do double the entry, cause I'm going to be,
because I'm a big dog.
Yeah. Cause you go in these rooms, and some of these guys are just, they have so much money and they're so successful. Like, I want to be like that. I'm going to jump ahead. That's always been kind of my thing, but I got a little bit big for my britches and I put too much money in, and it's like, and then, 2020 happens and you're like, oh boy, things are getting real tight now. And it's like, I picked the worst time ever. So it's like, this is a perfect storm of bad. So it's like, yeah, you can't blame the group that you're in, things like that, because everything's happened. But then you realize that there's a reason why people shouldn't do private equity until they're at a certain level in their life. And I learned that, like, I probably wasn't, I was probably about 2 years ahead of where 2 or 3 years ahead of where I should have been. So,
Yeah.
Sometimes, like smaller steps is better than trying to and I've seen people get burned and other things. And then I'm like, oh my God, like the crypto phase. Like, yeah, I like crypto. I bought crypto. I made money in crypto. I lost money in crypto, but I didn't go crazy in crypto. Like I had some friends that were putting everything in like, oh, it's going to a gazillion. I'm like, calm down, So it's like, see, you see those things where it's like, it's the Warren Buffett model of just like consistently investing and doing that. So that was my biggest mistake recently.
That's good, man. I think it's just really obviously vulnerable. So thanks for sharing.
Yeah, it was a kick in the nuts.
The wound is, I feel the wound's still closing up a little bit, still a little bit tender, but I think I can relate to that because, I'm for years and years, I was a Grant Cardone fan. I still am.
Yeah.
And he talks about this philosophy of going broke. You make your money,
yep,
store it, and then you go broke. And I think that's right. Like anytime that I've ever gone all in again and gone broke again, and really what that means is that you take all your money and put it in a big investment.
Yep.
And when you invest, whether it's in private equity or in real estate or in your own business, there shouldn't be a time horizon of immediate. In fact, Alex Hormozi talks about this a lot. He talks about if you can make a decision that's a decade of impact or 100 years of impact, as opposed to 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 quarter. Yes, those are good and we have to make those decisions. But the more decisions that you can make, especially financially, that are going to impact you 5 and 10 and 30 years from now. Well, okay. So using that lens, you said, okay, well, I would have looked at this and been like, okay, well, maybe I'm not quite ready to make a 30-year decision or a 5-year, whatever the time frame actually was, just wait 2 more years or whatever. But I love it because you have been through it now and you squeezed, but you're still here and you lived.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It hurt
so
a little bit.
It's like, it wasn't really that bad of a decision, because you did it. You still had the investment. I'm sure it's going to start paying you if it hasn't already. And you still figured it out. It forced you to figure it out.
Dude, yeah. It was something else. It was like, yeah, I got a little too confident. It's like you said, having that longer time frame. Yeah, if I'd have gone into it like I'm not gonna see this money for 5 years, and I've been like, yeah, let's not put that much money in. Okay, let's be a
Right.
little more reasonable. But like, oh yeah, I'll be like a year or so, and then
Right.
yeah, it was a good learning process.
Which is what I love about the going broke piece, because
Yeah,
it's unreasonable, right? Like you just said, like I didn't know, so I was unreasonable, looking really through the lens of what I should have done. It's like, no, but it forced you then to make it happen. Now, I'm not advocating for
yeah,
100% risky moves all the time. Like I'm a man of calculated risk, but I love the idea of, okay, like how can I really press myself here? Because if I do give it all and put it all in an investment that's not going to pay me for 5 years, well, what does that force me to do? It forces me to use my talents in an active way
yeah.
to go do it again.
Yep.
Keeps me
Got to
honest.
refill.
Exactly.
Hey, Kings and Queens, Chaz Wolfe. I want to talk to you about something that's super important to me. We put a lot of time and effort, we meaning myself and my team, into this podcast, into the content that goes out every single day. And if you have been getting any sort of value or insight from this, we want it to be able to reach other business owners too. So we would love if you would like, comment, share, leave a review, post, share again, all of the things on social media, on all the different platforms, or even on the podcast mediums of Apple and Spotify. We would love to be able to get our content into more hands, more entrepreneurs, so they can grow their business as quick as possible. Together, we are building a community of like-minded entrepreneurs who are committed to growing their businesses to new heights. So let's do this. Let's help each other. Let's help each other grow. Okay, let's talk about your decision-making process. Paul, I want to know, if a decision comes across your desk today, what's the magic formula? How do you determine how to, what's the right thing to do, or how do you make good decisions today?
Yeah, today is look at the data. I'm a big data person. So if something comes across the table and it's like, hey, we're thinking about doing this, it's like, all right, cool. What is the outcome? Like, what are we looking at? And like you said, Alex from I love his stuff, listen to his stuff. And he's kind of in the similar industry. So I've known of him for
Yeah.
God, 6 years or something before he became famous. So it's like, how is this going to, so decision comes across like, hey, will this help us? Is this going to hurt us? How much time? And I'm more right now of like, if something comes across and it's like, it might be something that could be good, could be bad, but to me, more important is how much time is this going to take?
Yeah.
Because to me, I joke around like I'll be 48 next month. So it's like, I'm not old, but I'm not young anymore. So it's like, when I'm in my 20s, it's like, yeah, I'll do everything. Let's go. Give me 47 things. I can work 20. Now I'm like, I want to go on vacation. I want to hang out and I want to do some fun stuff. So how much time is this going to take? Is it worth the time for the reward? If it is, great. If it's not, then okay, yeah, no worries. We'll pass on it. And then if it is worth the reward, then trying to build off of that from there.
Yeah, I think also too, noting your age or just business maturity, is that you have the ability to know what's worth it. Like I've seen both sides, basically, is what you're saying.
Yep. Yeah. When I was young, I
And
said yes to everything.
yeah, because you kind of have to. Like,
You
what
have
what do you
to.
have to lose? And
Yeah.
and you don't have anything, so you kind of
Yep.
just have to, right?
Yep. Exactly.
Work your nuts off, and that's okay. Like, hey,
Yep.
you need like if you're listening right now and you're in your 20s,
Go hard.
shut up and go work.
Yeah,
Right?
just do it. Just work. Put money
Work.
away and just work. It'll work
Yeah,
its
like,
way
and
out.
not just a little bit, not 40 hours, like
No.
3
That's a
times.
part-time job.
And there's nothing wrong with that in that season. And that's not hustle culture. That's not, don't love on yourself and no. Like just go do the work, to choose the hard thing. Because
Yeah.
if you can do that in your 20s, especially like I did, even before my 20s started, then that sets up the rest of everything else, which then gives you the poise, like Paul's saying right now. He knows how to look at an opportunity and go, you know what? This fits what we're looking for. Or if it doesn't, no thanks.
Yeah. No, thanks. Maybe another day, maybe another time. So yeah, looking at that and just making those decisions.
Yeah. Takes away the desperation, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely don't want that. Especially the older you get, you want to be less desperate.
I love that. Okay, I got some speed round questions here for you.
All right.
I want to know, inside of either the consulting and or the martial arts business, I want to know, what's the number one KPI that you would track if you could only pick one? What would it be?
For us that we track and we've kind of gone round and round is appointments set is the one
Okay.
key number for us. Yeah. Cause leads we can pretty much control, leads, you just spend money, get leads, you do different things, to get leads. Appointments that show and close, you should have systems dialed in, but the one that we can really track is appointments set. Cause that would let the people that are doing their job and getting, keeping that
Yeah.
pipeline going.
It's the skill set that is a little bit more variable, it sounds like.
Yep. Oh yeah. That's been the biggest
Interesting.
one.
Yeah. So from that number there, the rest of the pipeline and revenue and numbers and success, you can kind of do
Yep.
the math in your mind.
Yeah, we can do the math because you just revert. It's so cool because I hated math in school, but I call it money math. I love money math because, like you said, you just
Right.
nailed it. Reverse engineer the numbers. It's like, I know if we're getting 4 appointments, it's going to equal, 2 signups, which is going to equal, 30 a month, which is going to equal, 9,000 in down payments. Okay, cool. And then in this one, and you can build all of it right off that number. Leads is pretty basic. Once you get your business up and running, you get to that point where if you're spending money, you can kind of control it. But
Right.
the appointment set, that's key.
Yeah. It's the skill set. Generating leads is a skill set also.
Oh yeah.
It's just something that you're saying earlier on in business that it's more of a variable. Right
Yeah.
now, it's not so much.
Yeah, early on, yeah, it's all about leads early on. This leads, and more leads.
Lifeblood, baby.
Yeah, leads. And then once you get it dialed in, you realize like, hey, I get the systems running the leads kind of come in, because you've got an established brand, you're running Facebook ads, Google ads, YouTube, all that stuff. So you should be getting leads unless something's really messed up.
Right. Yeah, it's good. It's good. I'm sure that in itself is a really good transfer of courage to the listener because I'm sure somebody's listening right now that's just hard up for a lead,
Yep. I need leads.
Yeah. Which you do.
Yeah, we all do. We all
Go
do.
get you some leads, man.
Yeah.
But there's just more to the game.
Oh yeah. Different levels.
It's good stuff. Okay. What about a book or a podcast or a business resource that you'd recommend that has given you some great insight over the years?
Man, my favorite book is The Compound Effect.
Okay.
Super simple book. It's very similar, like Atomic Habits type thing, but it really helped change my attitude on a lot of things because I was always a guy that thought you have to do all these big things and you got to go and do these things. And I read this book and it was like, it just slapped me in the face of like, well, no, you do little things and then those things compounded this, and then you create these big movements. And I was like,
Yeah.
like, oh my God, this is so simple. I've had it so wrong where I was always trying to hit home runs. And it's like in baseball, the guy that always hits home runs. Yeah, he hits a few, but it's like the guy that's hitting singles and doubles and the occasional home run. That's the guy that's going to be in the Hall of Fame. And it's like, I missed it. So that book, I read it every year. It's a staple to my life. So I recommend that one.
Yeah, that's so good. Such a great reminder too, especially since we've already talked about Atomic Habits and just the idea of winning.
Yeah.
All of the little winnings, like when you really can understand, like I want to make bigger, longer term decisions, like we were just talking about earlier, a decade at a time. But inside of that, in order to be able to do that, I got to know that like the little incremental compounding effects or habits are being done. You can't think decades in a format if the little hasn't been mastered.
Exactly.
Good stuff, man. I appreciate that. I got a question for you about family, dude, because you've been doing this business thing for a couple of decades, right?
Yep.
And you've got family, you've got a wife, you've got some kids. And here's what I found. Every entrepreneur that I've talked to, every single one, 100%, no exaggeration, has this obsession in their business because they're, at least let me say it like this, every successful entrepreneur, because that's what it takes to be successful in business. We talked about the burning desire. It's obsession. Okay, fine. How have you over the years been obsessed with your wife, your kids, your family, the other things in your personal life as much at the same time of your business?
And that's a really hard thing is, you see it a lot. Like I have friends that are super successful and they're on like marriage number 4, or they're, they burn out and they have a horrible relationship with their kids. So when I started becoming a successful entrepreneur, I was like you said, 40 hours, that's like a part-time job. It's like I was working 100 hours, whatever. I mean, I was working 20 hours a day if I could, because I was trying to grow the business, start making money.
Yeah.
And then when I started making money, I made this commitment. It's like, and I forget who I heard it from the first time, was like, don't stop dating your wife. You have to have a date night. It's not negotiable. It's like, it's like, hey, we're going out, we're going to do this. And then at least once or twice a year, you go on somewhere. Like we couldn't afford to go on a long trip. We'd go, to a town over, stay at a hotel for 2 days, just keep dating your wife. And then with the kids, the biggest tip that I ever got and made a big difference, because my son's, he's 20 now and he still talks about it, is like, from like, I think he was probably 6 or 7 when we started doing it, but every year we go on him and I trip somewhere and we just, hey, I'm not going to buy you a lot of stuff for your birthday, but we're going on a cool trip. Like we, in New York, Miami. He's a big Broncos fan, which makes no sense because we live in Dallas. I took him to a Broncos game. So it's like, but he talks about that kind of stuff. Like those are his memories. Hopefully it passes down to his kids and stuff like that. But yeah, you have to stay involved because it's so easy to be like, oh yeah. When I got more money, we're going to do this. And then by that time, they don't like you anymore. It's like when I talk about people about their finances too, people are like, oh man, I want to invest like you when I have money. And I'm like, you never will. And then they get pissed. And I'm like, if you won't do it now with $1, you're not going to do it when you're making $10 million a year, because you're going to blow it on something stupid.
Yeah.
So really just staying focused.
I love the idea of the trips of the kids' birthdays. We
It's
try to
so
make the
great.
kids' birthday special like that, but I love the idea of trips because you're creating memories, not just always things. I've really been kind of wrestling with this idea of what it means to be a wholesome business owner. And it's not that you can't have nice things. It's not that I don't have a nice home or that I would never drive a Ferrari or something, but I'm just not that's just not what I'm after.
Yeah.
I'm after the memories with my kids. I'm after creating legacy in business where there's just so much money to where it's like, who can we help today?
Yeah. And that's
You know?
funny that you said that. Like, you get to that point where you start making money and you start thinking about, like, man, maybe it's the time I buy that stupid crazy car. But then you're like, how
Wow.
many trips is that? Like,
Yeah.
I think in trips. I'm like, if that thing's like $3,000 a month, that's $36,000 a year. I can go on like 3 insane vacations, like over the top insane. And it's like, to me, that's way better than a car. Cause
Yeah.
it's like, it's just so much better.
Yeah. Yeah. Think about all the other people that get impacted by the trip that don't get impacted by
Yeah. The car.
you driving in the little sports car by yourself. Cause I'm
Yeah.
assuming that you're a pretty big guy because I can see
Yeah.
through the Zoom here. I got look,
Yeah.
I'm not swole like you, but I'm 6'5", so I'm not fitting in a Lambo
You're not
pretty
fitting
easily
in there. Yeah.
anyway.
No.
Let's just go on a trip,
Yeah.
and to each their own. Like
Yeah.
you
Some
can
people love it.
interswap the things. It doesn't
Yep.
matter. I think the point that we're trying to make is like make it special, be obsessed with your kids and your family like you are with the business. Like that's really what we're saying.
Yeah, like that, because that's the worst thing. I mean, I shouldn't say the worst thing, because my listeners probably going through it, but it's like, you get to that point where, and I see it a lot, and you've probably seen a lot, these guys hit the pinnacle of their business success and they blew up their family. So then they're,
Yeah.
45, 50, and they're starting over with a new family. And it's like, man, I'm too tired to do that. Like, I have friends that, are starting over in, late 40s, late 50s. And I'm like, dude, I'm physically tired just thinking about your day. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, and then the whole time, then they'll still talk about their ex. And it's like,
Yeah.
that doesn't sound happy, because they chose, and it's tough. It's a tough battle, but some days you got to sacrifice a little bit to, keep the family happy.
Yeah. Yeah. And you use the word sacrifice and you're right, but you use the word investing earlier. And I would say that that's probably the better word is if I can
Yeah. Invest. Yeah.
invest
Better than sacrifice.
or be obsessed. It is a sacrifice.
Yeah,
When
it
we
is.
invest, it's a sacrifice.
Yeah.
We're sacrificing now for later.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, well, so what you really just said is that I'm sacrificing a individual pleasure today so that I can have a lasting marriage, so that I can have children that are 20 and 30 who want to do business deals with me and don't not want to call me,
Yeah. That's the
Um,
dream, man. As I joke around with my kids, it's like, man, someday, you guys are gonna be doing this, and I'm gonna be working for you part time. It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
So that to me, that's gonna be the ultimate definition of I was successful. If I have a good relationship with my kids and like we're doing stuff together and we're, because my job as an entrepreneur is to give my kids this huge head start in life of like understanding money, understanding business. Like the first thing I taught my son is, hey, you might not like sales or anything, but you need to learn sales because this is the lifeblood of everything. And I resisted that till I was 25 years old.
yeah.
And it set me so far back because I was, typical. It's probably worse now, but I came out of college like, I'll never sell anything. I won't work for the man. And then I got my wife pregnant and I'm like, I'll sell.
What can I
anything.
sell?
What can I sell? It's like, I can't afford this kid. What do I do? And they're like, oh,
Yeah.
because I always, anybody's had a corporate job, you go to work and you're eating your little cheap meal and you see the guys dressed nice and they got the nice stuff and they're eating the cafeteria. You're like, what do those guys do? Oh, they're in sales. Oh, I really messed up. It's like, I should have learned this skill set 7 years ago.
Seriously. Yeah. But I also love the hope in that because what you're saying is that even though it was 7 years later, you still did it.
Yep.
And it then impacted the rest of your career. So if you're listening right now and you're like, I don't know about that sales thing, maybe it's too late. Nope. Just stop everything, learn sales. It'll change everything for you.
It changes everything.
I second that.
Yeah, it gives me a huge advantage. And when I went into the business world, because like jujitsu guys they're a little bit cocky, they're a little bit, all centered about themselves, where I took a whole different approach because I wasn't as good as everybody else. So my thing was, hey, I'm gonna provide better customer service, sell better, be more helpful selling instead of like, just trying to be like a transactional, like, give me. I'm like, hey, man, why are you here? It's like, oh, you want to lose 20 pounds? Well, why do you want to lose 20 pounds? Well, I can't keep up with my kids and I want to see them grow up. I'm like, well, yeah, you need to do that. So if you're not going to the gym, you need to be coming here, but we're going to hold you accountable. Come here 3 days a week, yada, yada, yada. Night and day difference. Just because you care about people. Selling is easy when you care about the customers.
Boom. Mic drop. I got one last question here for you, Paul. You ready?
Right.
If you had an opportunity to whisper in the younger Paul's ear, what would you say?
Be Amazon.
I love that answer. I'm surprised though,
man.
as a stock guy, you didn't give yourself some stock advice. But
Oh,
in
no,
all
no,
s-
I would have bought Amazon because I
I thought you
buy
said
Amazon.
the Amazon. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 'Cause I joke around about it because I was literally working in the industry when Amazon was at like after the crash of 2001, whatever, the big crash,
Very well.
Amazon was trading like $2. And it's like, I looked at it, I'm like, "Ah, yeah, I don't know about that Amazon thing." And I look back at it, it's like, that's obviously me being funny, being the broker person. But
Yeah.
I would say the one thing that's helped me out that I tell myself is, I learned it later on. I think it was in Robert O'Neill's book, The Operator, was like he talked about what got him through buds and all of his life, and basically all his things he did was just keep moving forward. It's like no matter what happens, if you take that analogy, and that hit me when I read that in this book, I'm like, man, that's so crazy. It's like no matter what happens, things are going to go bad. You're going to have bad things happen in your life. And just keep going forward. Just keep moving. Keep moving. Don't stop. Because when you stop and you mope and you just, that's when you sit there and you're like, oh man, I wasted a year doing nothing because Susie, whatever, broke up with me, and I couldn't live without her. And you're like, yeah, you wasted a year. There was, then you finally met the other girl. And, so it's just keep moving forward.
Yeah. So good, man. And I think it's applicable for every single stage. Doesn't
Oh,
matter
yeah.
if you're a multi-billionaire or just getting the business started. Just just keep moving forward. It's almost our duty, our responsibility, right? Like, because if that's where you are now, then going back to the grateful not done at the beginning, it's like, well, there's still more to reach for. So it's almost my duty to keep going.
100%.
Love that. How can the listener find you, Paul? Number one, if they own a gym
Yeah.
and they need your help to grow their gym, or if they just want to reach out to you and get to know you as a business owner, how can they find you?
Yeah, hit me up on Instagram. That's my favorite social media. It's happier than any of them. Yeah, I like it a lot. It's like, the Paul period Halme. There's actually another Paul Halme, which is an old lawyer in California, which is pretty funny. So, um, but yeah,
Total opposite guy.
yeah, it's funny. Yeah, so you'll see mine. It's Paul period Halme. But I put a lot of free content out there because, like I said, my passion is like finance and helping people understand the basics of personal finance and business stuff. But yeah, if you got a gym or a small business and you're like, hey, I need some help, hit me up on there. That's my favorite spot.
Love it. Well, they should take advantage of you in that way and reach out and get to know you better. And maybe you can even help their business, like you said. Definitely appreciate you being here, adding value, because I mean, just the energy flow here between the Zoom, man, is fired up. But I wish you nothing but blessing and success in your family and your
Thank you.
businesses that you still got going on, all the crazy things going on in your life.
Yeah,
We just
it's
so
like
appreciate you being
don't
here
know what
today.
the next chapter is. Just keep going.
Exactly. Flip the page. Let's
Just keep going.
go. Thanks for being here, man.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you for listening to Gathering the Kings today. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. What I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing literally over 200 or 300 other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners, is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings literally exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe, that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.